Speak on the Show, episode 20, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific here on Speak on the Show. Got a good one for y'all today. Y'all ready? Let's go. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Speak On It. I am your boy R.W. Coolins, first and foremost giving honor to God who allows me to come at you in this manner on a weekly basis. We're back, y'all. We had a week off, a little hiatus there, but we're back. OT, good morning, bro. Appreciate the support. Popcorn early this morning. Come on, bro. Popcorn early in the morning. It's Breakfast of Champions. Let's go and get these formats. rwcoolins.com, R.W. Coolins, over all social media platforms. You can go there. Follow, share, subscribe, do what you do. rwcoolins.com. We're broadcasting live on YouTube and Facebook this morning. Also, you can go back after the show and download on Spreaker.com and Apple iTunes. On Apple iTunes, just search Speak On It Show. Everywhere else, R.W. Coolins. That's what you need to know. That's where you need to find the information. Go there, follow, share. Lady Michelle, good morning. Appreciate the support. 844-904-2665. That's 844-904-2665. No matter what the situation is, let your voice be heard. All we ask is say what you mean what you say. We come in as friends, we leave as family. That's what we do here on Speak on the Show. If you got a comment, you want to post. If you got a comment, you want to call in, 844-904-2665. Let's talk about it. Let's put it on the table. Let's talk about it. No one's right. No one's wrong. We're just here to have a discussion about what's going on in this world. All right. That's what we do here on the Speak on It Show. Straight talk, no chaser Saturday. Straight talk, no chaser. We just going to get into this. We're just going to talk about some things. We're going to chop it up. As you know, what we always do here on the Speak on the Show. I'm going to give you the facts, but I'm going to give you what my opinion is on it and how other folks that I've talked to, how they see it. And that's what we do here on the Speak on the Show. So let's start off with this. Now, I wasn't on last week, and it was July 4th celebration, Independence Day for the United States of America. TC, good morning, bro. Appreciate the support. Love my Warriors. Yeah, let's talk about that some other time, bro. It's a straight talk, no chaser. July 4th, Independence Day for the United States of America. Every 4th of July, I make it a point to somehow integrate the speech by the great Frederick Douglass. What is the 4th of July to the Negro? I make it a point. I try to find it every year, and I try to post it so people can understand what was going on back in 1776. Lynn Sewell, good morning, my brother. Appreciate the support. So I posted it this year. Didn't get a lot of likes. Didn't get a little irrelevant to the fact of whether people like it or not. I put it out there for a reason, and I put it out there for this reason. There's a lot of people, Brian Hoodie, good morning, bro. Appreciate the support. There's a lot of people who have a problem with certain Americans, African Americans, or other Americans, who don't celebrate the 4th of July as prescribed. Just put it as prescribed. Doesn't get into the barbecuing, wearing the red, white, and blue shirts and watching the fireworks. Everyone does not partake in the celebration. Everyone has their own reasons for maybe not taking part into the celebration. But it seems to me, from just reading and scrolling and looking around, that there's this feeling that if you don't celebrate in the prescribed way, that you're not patriotic, that you hate this country, so on and so forth. I could go down that rabbit hole, but I'm not going to go. But what I'm saying is, everyone does not celebrate the same thing the same way. But it seems as though when certain people, we recognize, and I'm going to say for me, let me just put myself in there. I don't want to talk for everybody, but if you got a comment, go ahead and put it in there. I recognize Independence Day. I understand what Independence Day is all about and everything like that. Don't get me wrong. But I don't do the celebration in the context of what other folks may prescribe it to be. It's just me. I recognize it, just like there's people who choose not to celebrate what Juneteenth is all about. Not even now that it's a national holiday, but before, when it was found out what it was all about, there were certain people that didn't want to celebrate that. I'm cool with that. You do what you do. But this stigma that anybody who's an American citizen, United States citizen, that chooses not to celebrate the 4th of July in the way that is prescribed or should be celebrated is not patriotic, doesn't love his country, and so on and so forth, let that go. Let it go. And please let it go. Because what you're doing is you're showing your ignorance. Because at the end of the day, Independence Day is all about freedom. So I have the freedom, and other folks have the freedom to celebrate or recognize as they see fit for how they feel. You can't dictate how people are going to celebrate a holiday. You can't come on. And then to minimize it to you're not patriotic or you don't love this country and all that. See, those are those talking points that certain people want to use. And I'm going to transition into this. Brittany Griner is being held in Russia for 0.7 grams of marijuana in a vape pen. Not saying she was right. Don't get me wrong. You were going to a foreign country. She said she was packing hastily and she packed it in her luggage or whatever. Not to the point, 0.7 grams is not to the point where you're trying to distribute it or anything like that. But that's what they're holding her on charges for. But there's a lot of people who have a comment about Brittany Griner and her being held over there and how she wrote the president a letter saying, hey, help me get out of here. I don't want to be here the rest of my life and all that kind of stuff, which any of us would do in the same situation, I would think. But when they start bringing up the fact that Brittany Griner chose to take a knee for the national anthem, and when they were, doing certain things or anything that deals with national anthem, as they did, they hijack what the concept and what the meaning is all about. They want to bring that up now as far as, well, you hate this country, so why should we help you and all this kind of stuff? See, there's a certain narrative that we want to put on these people that doesn't sit well with me. Brittany Griner is over there because she hastily packed. This is her story now. I'm just going by her story. We none of us know the true story. We just know what she said and what they said. She hastily packed the vape pen in her luggage. Now she's gone back and forth to Russia many times to play basketball because the WNBA don't pay enough. Another conversation for another day. But the fact that she was arrested, the fact that she's being tried, she could serve up to 10, 20 years in jail over there and anything like that. That's what we need to concentrate on, because there's other people being held in foreign countries for far worse crimes. Whether they did them or not is subjective. What she did, she took illegal narcotics to a country that doesn't allow it. She has to face the consequences of that. Now, I'm not saying that the United States shouldn't do what they can do to get her back, as well as other prisoners out there. But sometimes you have to look at the bigger picture. What part do you play in you're being arrested or anything like that? Now, I'm not saying that she should be overlooked or anything like that. She's part of the LGBT community, which in Russia is very frowned upon. So her safety is in question. Understood. So yes, they should do everything to get her, as well as the others, back to the United States soil for whatever they did over there. However, we got to stop getting into this picking and choosing whose crime is worse, or because this person did this, they don't love the country and all that. Let that go. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. You don't know a person's heart unless you know a person's heart. Their actions may say one thing, their heart may say something completely different. Let that go. Let that go. Case in point, we talk about that. But then we get into some of these politicians. Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell said, and I quote, "The labor shortage will be solved when people run out of stimulus money because Americans are flush for the moment." I don't think y'all heard me. Renee Gallen, good morning. Good morning. Appreciate support. Mitch McConnell said the labor shortage will be solved when people run out of stimulus money because Americans are flush for the moment. Now, the last time I checked, stimulus checks were like $1,400, $1,200, something like that. I didn't receive them. I don't know. But I know they were like $1,400, $1,200, give or take, somewhere in there. Some people's rent is more than $1,400. Some people rent more than $1,200. Some of these people that got this check, these stimulus checks, are working minimum wage when they were working or are still working. This is the mentality of the people we keep putting in office, like I keep hindering on, keep pressing on. Mitch McConnell is out of touch. Mitch McConnell's wife, let's just be real, who was the Secretary of Transportation, I think, during the Trump administration, they had her under ethics violations because of money that she was moving around or investing in within the transportation, but nobody wants to talk about that. See, these rich folk, people with this money that are in government that are doing these unethical things behind the scene, get a slap on the wrist. However, we want to hold the economy and what's wrong with the economy to the people on the low end. We want to hold the people who are struggling to make ends meet responsible for what's going on with the economy. But we got people that got $1,400, $1,200 stimulus checks or whatever they may have got working minimum wage or however much you may make and everything like that. However, if you notice, and some people, y'all need to start looking at these reports of these financials that these companies are, making. They're making billions of dollars quarterly off this inflation per se. It's not inflation, it's price gouging, if you ask me. But they're making millions of dollars and billions of dollars in these big corporations off the backs of these workers and don't want to pay them $15 to $20 minimum wage. They still want to keep them at $7.25 in some places. But they're saying because they got stimulus checks, they should be able to make it through. And now when their stimulus checks runs out, they'll go out and get a job. And then the labor shortage will work itself out. No, it won't. Because what's going on right now, and this is the R.W. Coolin's opinion, you take it for what it is. What's going on right now is these restaurants you're going in or these stores you're going in where they ain't got enough cashiers or they don't have enough waitresses or anything like that. That is the management not hiring those people and blaming it on people not wanting to work because they're trying to keep their payroll low and their income high. When you go to a restaurant and you see all these tables, but you only see one person working 4, 5, 6 tables compared to what they had, maybe one person working 3 at one time, now they're working 6. That's not because of a labor shortage. That's because of the company doesn't want to hire people to work because they don't want the overhead for salary. Let's just be honest about it. Coming out of this pandemic, you have companies trying to cut corners everywhere they can. You go into Walmart, they got self-checkout lines, and then they got the registers. The self-checkout lines are always open. The registers, you got 1 or 2. You got it in the grocery stores, you got it in department stores, you got it all over. And there's not a shortage of labor. People want to work. They're not hiring at the levels that they were hiring before the pandemic, and they're not going to start hiring at the levels of the pandemic until they recoup all their money. You're going to keep hearing me say this because people need to pay attention. Stop trying to blame everybody else and look at who these corporations are. Case in point, Tesla's losing money now. Tesla, the main electric vehicle company, Elon Musk, who was trying to buy Twitter. Now that's a big thing going on, but let's get back to the electric vehicle. He had the market in a stranglehold. But there's another company, and I can't remember off the top of my head, so y'all forgive me, that Warren Buffett is a part of. Everybody knows Warren Buffett, big money. That has outsold Tesla over the last quarter or the last month. I can't remember exactly. Tesla's not selling, Tesla's not making as much money as they were before when they had the stranglehold on the market. A Tesla, fully loaded, top of the line, $146,000. That's a Tesla Plaid. That's the top of the line Tesla. $146,000, and they want people to go to the electric cars. Who can afford a $146,000 car? People can't afford a $1,200 rent. Some people can't afford a $1,200 to $1,300 mortgage. These are the things we have to look at. So these people are trying to recoup their money any way they can. And they tell you the savings will come out because you're not spending money on gas. You're only spending on electric, and electric costs less than gas. But there's not a lot of electric cars out here, not a lot of infrastructure to charge these cars. All these things come into play when we talk about the economy as a whole. They're trying to force feed us these certain things, all labor shortages and all this. No, these people still making their money. Big Al, my brother, what's going on, bro? I see you out there. I see you out there. Keep doing your thing, bro. But these are the things that we're not paying attention to. These are the things that are going on around us that we need to focus in on, because sometimes we get caught up in what they're saying rather than what the facts are. These companies, you haven't, let me just put it this way, and I'm gonna leave this alone. Have you heard of any of these large corporations, large companies, any of these large companies going bankrupt, shutting their doors because they can't afford to hire labor? They can't afford to continue making the products. They can't afford to keep distributing the products. We haven't heard any of those businesses closing. Small businesses have closed, but these large corporations haven't closed, which is what feeds the consumer. We need to pay attention to these things. Big Al, power grid cannot support it. No, not the electric cars. There's a lot of things going to have to be done before this push for electric vehicles is going to really be able to be worthy. But I digressed off of something I said. Mitch McConnell, let's just be real. Mitch McConnell, the labor shortage will be solved when people run out of stimulus money because Americans are flush for the moment. So all you people out there that got that stimulus money, Mitch McConnell said you need to go ahead and spend it and stop holding on to it. Most people spent that stimulus money as soon as it dropped in their account. Let's just be honest. And it's not to talk bad about it. I mean, hey, some people use that money in order to survive with what was going on. William Hill, good morning, my brother. Appreciate support. They're out of touch, and we keep voting them in. They're out of touch, and we keep voting them in. And here's another thing we're out of touch on. Arizona bans filming within 8 feet of police officers. Arizona bans the filming within 8 feet of police officers. In Arizona today, you cannot film police officers doing their job or doing their job wrongly within 8 feet. And if the officer tells you to go back, you could be arrested because you're not supposed to be recording any police officer within 8 feet. Civil rights and media groups opposed the measurement that Republican Governor Ducey signed Thursday. The law makes it illegal in Arizona to knowingly video police officers 8 feet or closer without an officer's permission. So if I see an officer doing, and I don't want to go back here, but let's just go here, doing what they did to George Floyd, and I decide to start recording, I got to ask the officer who may have his knee on his neck or his back or whatever, can I record you if I'm within 8 feet? I got to go back further than 8 feet. It says there needs to be a law that protects officers from people who either have very poor judgment or sinister motives. I'm pleased that a very reasonable law to promote safety of police officers and those involved in police stops and bystanders has been signed into law, Kavanaugh said. This is Representative John Kavanaugh. It promotes everybody's safety, yet still allows people to reasonably videotape police activity as is their right. The Phoenix Police Department, which oversees the nation's 5th largest city, has been criticized in recent years for its use of force, which disproportionately affects Black and Native American residents. No shock there. Eight feet. They're banning filming of police officers to 8 feet. What are you trying to hide? What are they trying to hide? What is it with the fact that with everyone with video cameras now, and with everybody have cameras on their phones and everything like that, that they're so concerned about what you may catch on camera that holds these police officers accountable, that they actually came out with a law not a law that protects you from injustices that they may do to you or plant evidence or anything like that. But you can't record them within 8 feet without an officer's permission. What are we doing? And when I say we as American citizens. What are we doing where we are voting in people who are putting laws like this into effect? Because 9 times out of 10, if someone's recording something that a police officer is doing right, wrong, or indifferent, and that police officer has a problem with it, you got to question who the police officer is and what his intentions are. Because a lot of it is intent. What were his intentions? What were their intentions? And let me transition to this one, because we really need to know what their intentions and what their intent truly was. Mr. Jayland Walker, Akron, Ohio. This young man was pulled over at a traffic stop. During the traffic stop or the pursuit, they say he fired at the police officers. He fired 1 shot, they say. Still up for debate of where we're going with this. I don't know. I haven't watched the video. I don't know if any of you watched the video, but I can't watch the video. I'm just going to be honest with you. It's just not. Ellen Pringle, why can't we get a national list of cops who were fired for wrongdoing yet? You know, hold off on this Mr. Walker thing for a minute. You bring up a good point there, Mr. Pringle. Appreciate the support, bro. You know, it's amazing that we see these police officers get fired or released from a police department in one county, and they get hired by another police officer in another county. They got fired from one county or resigned because they did something wrong, but they're able to get employment in another county doing the same type of job. This lets you know that there's no checks and balances when it comes to the police officers and wrongdoing. The only one that has been truly held to account is Derek Chauvin for the death of George Floyd. And this week, he was sentenced to 20 additional years for the civil rights violations that he had against George Floyd while he was murdering him. Let's just call it what it is. But these people are able to go from one police department where they did something wrong, got fired or whatever, and go to another one. But there's no tracking of any of this where we as the citizens can know what's going on. Because these are public servants. Remember what they call them? They call them public servants. Public servants, we should be able to know exactly what they did wrong, where they did it, and who they did it to. But we're not going to get that information. Thank you, Ellen Pringle. Appreciate that. So back to Mr. Jayland Walker. As I said, I haven't watched the video. I'm not going to watch the video. I don't think I can watch the video. But it tried to say that he shot at the officers one time. There was a gun found, magazine, and a gun. Clip wasn't in the gun at the time when they supposedly found it in the car. But they said there was, a cartridge found near the point where they said he shot at the officers. I want to know what the intent of these 8 officers, because there were 8 police officers that shot him. Well, let's just be real here. They executed Mr. Jayland Walker. And they said that these officers shot at least 90 times. They shot at Mr. Walker at least 90 times when he got out the car and ran in an open field where there was nowhere to hide, no way, he wasn't going to get away. And these 8 officers, intent on stopping him, shot 90 rounds of ammunition at one person for a traffic stop. Mr. Jayland Walker, out of those 90 rounds that were shot, it says that he was hit between 60 to 80 times. And they're not sure the full number because bullets can cause, when I wrote this down now, bullets can cause wounds both entering and exiting. So they're saying he could have been hit between 60 and 80 times out of those 90 rounds that were shot. Here with Allen, watched video, didn't see that, found a gun, never said his gun was discharged. Well, that's what they're saying now. So, they're not going to say that initially. But that's what they're saying. They try to say he fired at the officers, shot one round at the officers. Whether he shot one round, 2 rounds, 20 rounds, 90 rounds were shot at this young man for fleeing a traffic stop. Now, I've said this before. Many people will say this, oh, if he had only complied, they get into this, if he'd only complied. To shoot 90 times at one person, whether he would complied or not, because they said he stopped and turned around and had his hands up. And that's when they, quote unquote, lit him up with those 90 rounds. Every Allen Highland Park shooter taken into custody alive. I'm getting to that. I'm getting that. It's very disturbing to hear this. That we had 8 police officers feel comfortable shooting at one individual, a total of 90 rounds total between the 8 of them. And people not being in an uproar. And the other problem I have is, why is this not headline news every day until this trial comes around or we get all the evidence? We're still talking about Uvalde, Texas, where the kids were killed in the classroom because the cops did not do their job. We very rarely hear about Buffalo anymore. I don't know why. Maybe because it was a white supremacist and they don't want to put out how bad and rampant white supremacists are in this country. But we don't hear about that as much. And then Big Al talked about Highland Park on the 4th of July, shooting people out there, celebrating the parade, visiting parades, and watching the parade. They took him alive. So the cops have restraint to take a person who just killed 6 people, 7 now, injured multiple 30, 40 people, shooting from a rooftop. They were able to apprehend them at a traffic stop. They pulled him over while he was trying to flee. No shots fired at all. But Mr. Jayland Walker gets shot at 90 and hit between 60 to 80 times. His body is riddled with bullet wounds. And the fact that when he showed up to the coroner's office, he was still in handcuffs. Handcuffed behind his back when they dropped him off, his body off, at the coroner's office. Where's he going? So you're telling me after they shot this man between 60 and 80 times, they still had sense enough to handcuff him? I understand procedure. Don't get me wrong. But you had the intent and the mindset to handcuff him, but you didn't have the mindset to stop firing after he was hit once, maybe twice, but 60 to 80 times. You never had any intent, in my opinion, to apprehend him, for him to seek his day in court for whatever he may have done at this traffic stop. Your intent was to kill him. 60 to 80 times you hit his body. Your intent was to kill him. There's no gray area. It's straightforward. But we're not talking about Mr. Jayland Walker. We're talking about all these other shootings. But we're not talking about this police shooting in Akron, Ohio, where 8 officers found a reason to shoot 90 times. Now, I'm not a mathematician in most cases. But most officers, police officers carry, handguns. I think they carry Glocks. I don't know how much the magazine may hold, but if you had 8 officers, if They hold 80 rounds, 10 rounds each. That's 80. He said they shot at him 90 times. Could be higher, could be lower. Don't know. But the lawyer that's for the Walker family, Mr. DiCello, said that after reviewing the footage, he found no evidence that Walker, who had no criminal record, did anything to the officers that would put them in fear and require them to shoot. He added that the parking lot Walker ran to was large and vacant with no place to hide. Although a gun was found in the car, Walker was not carrying it at the time he was shot. What was the intent? What was the intent? We'll never know, because these officers will never be put on the stand. They'll never be brought to trial, because the fact that they're saying that he had a gun, people will try to justify them shooting at him 90 times because he had a gun, but the gun wasn't on him when they shot him. But we don't look at the parallels of mass shooter apprehended with no gunfire, nothing whatsoever. He'll stand trial or whatever proudly because he's representing something. But Mr. Walker, on the other hand, was pulled over for a traffic stop and will never see a courtroom. What's wrong with this picture? Same thing is wrong with this picture. This week, a warrant for the arrest of Carolyn Bryant Donham. Y'all know who Carolyn Bryant Donham is? If you don't, let me help you out here. Carolyn Bryant Donham is the woman who wrongfully accused Emmett Till of doing something to her that caused him to be killed by her husband and someone else. They this week found a search warrant that was for her arrest from, what did it say, 55 years, from 1955. The warrant was dated August 29, 1955. There was an arrest warrant for her, a warrant for her arrest to be questioned about the murder of Emmett Till, and it was never served. They found it in a box. All these years later, there was an intent for her to be questioned for what happened to Emmett Till. There was an intent for her to be brought up on charges for what happened to Emmett Till. Even though her husband and the other guy got off, they were acquitted, she was supposed to be questioned because of what she said, because of the main thing is she was the cause of Emmett Till's death. Let's just be real. But this week they found a search warrant for her arrest that was never served. They just happened to be looking in a box. The Emmett Till Foundation. Search was started by the Emmett Till Foundation and included two members of Till's family. Cousin Deborah Watts, head of the foundation, and her daughter, Terry Watts. They want authorities to use the warrant to arrest Donham, who at the time of the slaying was married to one of the two white men tried and acquitted just weeks after Till was abducted from a relative's home, killed and dumped into a river. They say serve it and charge her. Donham set off the case in August of 1955 by accusing the 14-year-old Till of making improper advances at a family store in Money, Mississippi. A cousin of Emmett Till, who was there, has said Till whistled at the woman, which flew in the face of Mississippi's racist social codes of the era. And we all know the story. Evidence indicates a woman, possibly Donham, identified Till to the men who later killed him. The arrest warrant against Donham was publicized at the time, but the Lafleur County Sheriff told reporters he did not want to bother. Watch this now. The Lafleur County Sheriff told reporters he did not want to bother the woman since she had two young children to care for. Now in her 80s, and most recently living in North Carolina, Donham has not commented publicly on calls for her prosecution. He didn't want to bother her because she had two young children. He didn't want to bother her because she had two young children. And we've all seen the pictures of what the aftermath of what they did to Emmett Till was, but they didn't want to bother her because she had two young children. And what they're saying is arrest warrants can go stale due to the passage of time and changing circumstances, and one from 1955 almost certainly would not pass muster before a court, even if a sheriff agreed to serve it. But combined with any new evidence, the original arrest warrant absolutely could be an important stepping stone towards establishing probable cause to initiate a new prosecution. If you went in front of a judge, you could say, once upon a time, a judge determined there was probable cause, and much more information is available today. I don't know about y'all, but do you think this will ever see the light of day for her to be charged, brought in, questioned? Because they didn't want to bother her then. Why would they want to bother her now? They're going to say, oh, she's 80 years old. Now, I do have a problem where there's some people in Donham, North Carolina, where she was left. Not somewhere in North Carolina. I'm sorry, last name is Donham, but in North Carolina, where these mothers went up and raided a nursing home looking for her. I have a problem with that. Let it run its course. Don't. I understand the anger, but we got to be better. We got to be better. We can't be running up in all these nursing homes all around North Carolina looking to see if she's in there. We gonna do street justice well. Let's just be real. We don't do street justice well. We don't need to be doing that. We don't need to be doing that. When I seen that report, I laughed, but it's a sad state of affairs when we have to take justice into our own hands. Let's just be honest about it. Call it what it is, or call it what it was. A group of Texas educators have proposed to the Texas State Board of Education that slavery should be taught as, watch this now, involuntary relocation during second grade social studies instruction. A group of Texas educators has proposed to the Texas State Board of Education that slavery should be taught as involuntary relocation during second grade social studies instruction. The working group of 9 educators, including a professor at the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley, is one of many such groups advising the State Education Board to make curriculum changes. This summer, the board will consider updates to social studies instruction a year after lawmakers passed a law to keep topics that make students feel discomfort out of Texas classrooms. The board will have a final vote on the curriculum in November. Boy, I tell you. So they don't feel discomfort. See, this goes back to what I was talking about in the beginning. When we talk about the 4th of July and Independence Day for this country, and then we have people in this country that want to eliminate history as it was. They don't want to tell the truth. They want to alter the facts of what went on. You want to change slavery for what it is and what it was to be an involuntary relocation. So taking the people from their country, bringing them here to do labor is recognized as slavery. But in the benefit of not making people feel uncomfortable, we want to change slavery to involuntary relocation. This is the state of Texas. But this is the mindset of a lot of people in this United States of America where slavery is a taboo. Slavery is something that we don't want to talk about, but if you look at it, slavery helped to build this country, if not built this country, labor-wise, let's be real, labor-wise, to be what it is today. But you want to eliminate that from the conversation. You want to eliminate that from the equation to make certain people feel comfortable. What about the comfort of those people who suffered? What about the history of this country that shows that we have not always been who we say we are? What about this country and what we've done in our past that we need to learn from so we don't do it going into the future? What is the problem with addressing it as it was rather than what you want it to be? I get tired of hearing people trying to say that they're being held accountable for what happened during slavery. What you're being held accountable for is the fact of not addressing what happened during slavery. What you're being held accountable for is trying to change the narrative of what happened rather than addressing it for what it was. There's too many times in this history that we try to eliminate the bad and make it seem like everything is always good. Case in point, the Jayland Walker situation. Case in point, the sniper that was on top of a building shooting at 4th of July celebrators. What happened in Uvalde, Texas? What happened in Buffalo, New York? What happened 9/11? We can talk about 9/11 every year when it comes around, but people have a problem with celebrating Juneteenth, which ended slavery, that made everyone partially equal in this country, where slave labor was not allowed anymore. But we don't want to celebrate that, but we'll celebrate the tragic death of the people that were in the Twin Towers and in the Pentagon on 9/11. And let's not forget what happened in Pennsylvania as well. This is where, for me, and I'm only going to speak for me, this is where my anger starts to rise, because we can't pick and choose what's good and not talk about what's bad. I always say this, and I'll say it in this instance of what I'm talking about. We can reflect, but we don't need to dwell. And to reflect means to know the sins of our ways, whether it be slavery, whether it be something you did to somebody in your past. Tony Williams, good morning. Appreciate you. We have to be able to reflect on those things to understand where our wrongs were, so we don't continue doing the same wrongs. We do it in our everyday life every day. But when we talk about history of Christopher Columbus coming here and what he did to the Indians, the indigenous people of this country, we don't want to talk about that. When we talk about slavery, we don't want to talk about that. We want to talk about all the good. And then when we get upset because someone chooses to practice the freedoms that they have in this country, Colin Kaepernick decides to take a knee for the people that are oppressed in this country, and he's vilified. But when you have people that want to overthrow the government and change the name from an insurrection to a riot, when they were trying to overturn the will of the people, it's a different narrative that people want to portray. This is where the problem comes in for a lot of people who are American citizens by birth that may not look like the American citizens that came here from Europe. This is the problem that comes in where we try to pick and choose what's important or what we want to change the narrative about. See, this is why I come on here every Saturday morning to talk about these things. Not because I hate this country, but we need to look at things in the bigger scope. What has this country done for me lately is a lot of mentality of a lot of people. Because when we talk about this country, as well as it is, as great as it is, there are pockets in this country who feel that because you don't look like them, you don't deserve the same freedoms that they have. And until we get to a happy medium to understand this and recognize it and stop trying to sweep it under the rug, we're going to continue to have this conversation. And I'm going to continue to say it over and over and over again. Because we can't continue to act like these things aren't happening. We can't continue to act like everybody's an ally when they're a damn ally. This is where the problems come in. When we see these injustices being done, we see R. Kelly this week, last week, whatever it was, and I'm transitioning a little bit, but I got some things on my chest I want to get off. R. Kelly was sentenced to 30 years. 30 years. Giselle Maxwell, whatever her name is, that was Jeffrey Epstein's accomplice, got 20 years. But the one thing we don't know about Jeffrey Epstein and Giselle Maxwell and everything that they were doing was all the people that they were supplying with these young girls. But we're vilifying R. Kelly, but we're not vilifying all the people that contributed to what Jeffrey Epstein and Giselle Maxwell were doing with these young girls. The only person that has been sued was the Prince Andrew. Donald Trump has been to the island. Bill Clinton has been to the island. I don't need to go any further. There's many politicians, many people in high levels that were friends with Jeffrey Epstein that are in this book that we'll never hear about because there's a certain code that you don't cross. Like the blue code with the cops, there's a certain code with these politicians, certain code with these predators, and just call it what it is. If you're gonna call R. Kelly a predator, you need to call all those people that were with Jeffrey Epstein predators as well. And I'm not defending anything R. Kelly did. Don't get me wrong. Yes, I'm a fan of his music, but I'm not defending anything. So let's clear that up real quick. He was held accountable for what he did. Why aren't the others being held accountable for what they partook in as well? That's all I'm saying. This double standard of who, what, when, where, and why is where the problem comes in for us most in this country. If you can throw R. Kelly behind bars for 30 years, you can't tell me that all those people that were associated with Jeffrey Epstein and were involved in those little orgies out on that island and these young girls and everything shouldn't be held accountable as well. But wait, money talks, and they go after who they want to go after. R. Kelly was charged. If he was guilty, which they found him guilty in a court of law, he's got to do the time. But the other people walk freely in this country, nothing done to them. This is where the anger and the problems come in with a lot of people in this country when we sit back and see the double standards that come up. But you don't want to talk about critical race theory and how critical race theory and what happens in the systems that causes these differences in sentencing, causes these differences in how things are taken care of. You know, we talk about, and I'm all over the place today, but I'm not feeling this. We have at this time probably the most sitting African American senators and congressmen. There's only one or two senators, but Congress, in the Congress in our lifetime. And throughout all these things that have been going on with the January 6th committee and all the things that are going on as far as abortion rights and taking away abortion rights and all these different things, I have not heard from any of them that look like me. I mean, let's just be honest. I haven't seen, what's her name? Maxine? I can't remember her last name. I'm drawing a blank now. I haven't seen her. The one that was a staunch supporter out there with, charged Donald Trump and all this, but I haven't seen her talking about abortion. I haven't heard her talking about women's contraception rights. I haven't heard her talking about all the things that affect the African-American community. Thank you, Ms. Pringle. Maxine Waters. Appreciate that. I haven't seen her. Kamala Harris, she comes out every once in a while, says this and that, but they're not staunch standing on the principles of what they're supposed to be fighting for the community. Now, I understand they can't fight every battle, but they need to be a voice amongst those battles. You shouldn't only have to hear these things from me. They should be talking just as loud. They're already in office. They've been in office for a long period of time. Maxine. James Clyburn. Y'all were loud when it came election time, trying to get Joe Biden elected, but you're very quiet when it comes to these passing of these bills that affect a whole mass of people around this United States. I haven't heard any of them speak up about what happened to Jayland Walker. Normally they come out and say something. See, these are the things that we sit back and look at. And when I talk about us electing the same people into office, I'm not only talking about the Republican, because I'm talking about the Democrat side. And I'm not only talking about white, I'm talking about black. We get comfortable when we see them up there, and then we keep voting them in. And after a while, they're not doing the will of the people. They're doing the will of their pockets. But we don't pay attention to that because we're like, oh, we got a sister up there. Or we got this, we just last week, right before the 4th of July, Justice Ketanji Brown was sworn in to the Supreme Court. It was a blurb on the TV screen. The historical moment like that was just a blurb. I understand we celebrated the nomination and her being nominated and coming up, but what about the swearing in? But we're trying to take slavery out of classrooms, change the narrative about what it's all about. And we're comfortable. We've gotten too comfortable. We've gotten comfortable because it's not affecting me. When I talk about those stimulus checks that Mitch McConnell was talking about, a lot of people got them, a lot of people didn't. Okay, fine. But everybody's suffering right now. But you got Mitch McConnell saying, labor shortage will go away here shortly because they're going to run out of money. Basically, what he's saying, they're going to run out of money, so they got to go get a job. Not looking at the fact that most of those people that got them stimulus checks were already working or are working at this point. But there's this narrative from this level that people are lazy. They don't want to work. I just seen, and I don't want to speak out of turn, but somewhere there was a company that told, oh no, it was government workers, I think. They told their people they need to start coming back to the office. They resigned. They told these people that they need to start coming back to the office after this pandemic is over and they need to start coming back to, and a whole bunch of them resigned because they don't want to fit into what they were doing before the pandemic. There's a lot of government workers that are still teleworking, and they use telework rather than leave nowadays. Some people will say, oh, well, my daughter's sick. I need to stay home. Or just telework. Back in the day, you had to take leave. What's going on? See, we got to be held accountable for what we do too. If you have a job and they had you teleworking or working from home to keep you safe during the pandemic, we're out of the pandemic phase, but we still do have, COVID-19 going on. People still catching it. People still getting sick. But certain situations, people have to take leave. Certain situations, people tell them, oh, just telework. Don't worry about it. We'll cover you. You're stealing time. That's called stealing time. But nobody wants to talk about that. I understand we're trying to take care of our people. I get that. But there comes a time where you got to really look at it because you had some people that worked this whole pandemic going in the office every single day because they didn't have the option to telework. And then you have people that have taken this telework thing in certain situations and have taken it to a whole different level of substituting teleworking with time off because they have a situation. That's flexible. I get that. But everyone doesn't have that option. See, the manual labor people don't get that option. They can't telework. They take a computer home and fix a pothole over there. They can't take a computer home and still pick up passengers and take them where they need to go. There's certain jobs you can't telework, so they get punished because anytime they want to take off, they have to take leave. But the ones that had the option to telework, you have bosses that say, don't worry about putting leave in, just work from home tomorrow. We got you covered. Now I know I went on a little rant there. Y'all pray for me. I got a lot going on up here. But all this comes from reading, watching, listening. As I always tell y'all, I've never was, let me say this. I was never the greatest student when I was in high school. Never the greatest student. Didn't want to apply myself to read, didn't want to do the homework, didn't want to do none of that stuff. But as years have gone by, as I matured, I'm not going to say I got older, as I matured, I started to understand the importance of knowledge. Because in order to speak on a subject, you have to have knowledge of the subject. And in order to gain knowledge, you have to read. You have to listen. You have to research. And that's something that I think we all fall a little short. I mean, I fall short sometimes. You don't think I'm saying that I'm the greatest at what I do. Because I still fall short. But there's some things that have drawn me in to make me want to find out more information, to be able to speak on it and put it out there of this is what's going on. This is what's happening right in front of us. Pay attention to what's going on. Stop worrying about what's going on. Real Housewives of Atlanta, Love and Marriage Huntsville, Love and Marriage DC. There's a balance. There's a balance. We have to be able to have entertainment and at the same time acquire knowledge. to come to a happy medium to understand what's going on around us. Because if we don't, you're going to have these laws passing about taking slavery out and making it an involuntary relocation. Because we're only paying attention when it comes election time, not every time. These laws are being passed every day. This abortion thing didn't just pop up overnight. This abortion thing was in the works long before the Supreme Court decided to overturn it. Long before. It was all just a strategic move. They're not playing checkers, they're playing chess. But we sit back and we keep putting these same people in who have their own agenda. That's why I say read, get to know these things. The January 6th committee. The January 6th committee, if you've been paying attention, been listening to what I've been reporting on this, there's a lot of information that's been coming out of that. A lot of people they just want to dismiss. They want to dismiss it as not relevant. That's just Trump being Trump. All the enablers, that's what they do. That's what they get paid for, and so on and so forth. And come on, y'all. You had a sitting president at the time, that sat there on January 6th and told his people that he wanted more people in the crowd that had an open space. And the reason the people weren't coming in was because they had weapons and they had metal detectors, they called them mags, for them to enter into a certain area closer to the stage where he was giving his speech. The sitting president of the United States told them to get rid of the metal detectors and let those people in because they weren't there to harm him. Listen to what I'm saying now. The sitting president of the United States said, let these people in, knowing that they have weapons, get rid of the metal detectors and let them get closer to the stage to fill in the gaps, to make it seem like there's more people there, because they weren't there to harm him. This is a sitting president of this United States that you guys keep running. There's certain, I'm not going to say you guys, certain people keep running around wanting to put back in office, where he's trying to have his own militia. Let's just be honest about this. He wants his own militia. He wants to be like a Kim Jong-un of North Korea or Vladimir Putin of Russia in this United States that you guys say has all these freedoms. That you get mad when someone decides to take a knee for the oppressed people of this country, but you're very silent about what this man did as the sitting president of the United States on January 6th, where he was trying to get a militia to overthrow the government to keep him in power. And you're still in denial about him even doing any of the things that he's been accused of. Because you don't want to hear the truth about what happened that day and what led up to that day. This investigation, this committee has exposed the fact that the president of this United States had white supremacist groups working in conjunction with him and other folks to overthrow the will of the people. And nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to act like this happened. They say it's a witch hunt. It's this, it's that. And then you got people that don't even want to go and sit in front of the committee under oath to say what they know to be true. Why? You had a four-star general, Michael Flynn, disgraced, let me just put it out, disgraced general, who everyone says is a patriot. He sat in front of a committee under questioning and pled the fifth every time. They asked him one simple question that has been advertised, and they asked him, do you believe in a peaceful transition of power in this country? He pled the fifth. Let that marinate for a minute. 3-star, 4-star, I can't remember what he was. He was over the DIA at one time, Defense Intelligence Agency. He was over the Defense Intelligence Agency. He was fired from that position by Barack Obama at the time because of something he did or something he said that he wasn't supposed to say, something along those lines. I don't know all the history, but I'm trying to let you know who Michael Flynn is. He was supposed to be this, Secretary of Defense or security advisor. I don't know what he was, national security advisor. He had to step down because he was communicating back channels with Russia before Trump was even elected into office. And he got called into the committee, subpoenaed to question, and they questioned him. They asked him if he believed in a peaceful transition of power from one president to the other, and he pled the fifth. One of the standing principles of what this country is about, and you have a retired general saying that he pleads the fifth, basically saying that he doesn't believe in a peaceful transition of power in this country. Let that marinate for a minute. Call him crazy, call him what you want to call him. But you need to be aware. This is what's going on behind the scenes that we don't know about, that is being exposed now. I'm telling y'all, Edward Allen Barack told Trump Flynn was dirty. He just got fined this week by the Defense Department for taking money for speeches that he was doing overseas and never claimed. So this ain't his first rodeo of doing things dirty. But everybody looks at Michael Flynn as a patriot because he served in the military. Okay. But now that he's out of the military, he's doing everything against what the principles of this country and this Constitution is all about. But nobody wants to talk about that. He was willing to overthrow the government for a sitting president, which they know is wrong. I don't know, y'all. We got a lot of things going on. A lot of things going on. I don't know. I truly don't know. We got some work to do. We got a whole lot of work to do. Let's get into this. Time for the Mind, Body, and Soul. Mind, Body, and Soul. It's the year 2022, taking it 1,440 minutes, 1,440 moments you get each and every day. Today's Mind, Body, and Soul, not a phrase, not a quote. It's time for a welfare check. Time for a welfare check. We're coming into the second week of July. Halfway through the year, y'all. We're halfway through the year. A lot of y'all have set your goals in the beginning of the year. You had resolutions, which I don't call resolutions and things. A lot of things going on with you. John Chaney, appreciate support, bro. A lot of things going on with you, and we're in the second week of July. The year is halfway gone. And I want to do this welfare check today just to make you think about some things, to look at things in a broader scope. And when I say in a broader scope, I'm looking at it in a welfare check as far as we're always checking on everybody else. We're checking on, I tell y'all, call your friends that you ain't heard from, check on them, just say hi, make sure they're doing good and everything. But this welfare check this time, I want you to check on yourself. I want you to check on yourself. And when I say check on yourself, I mean it in this way. We're talking about the mind, body, and the soul. I'm going to start with the body. We're halfway through the year. Have you done your annual physical? Have you done your colonoscopies? Ladies, have you done your pap smears, breast exams? You see where I'm going here, right? See, there's a lot of things going on around us that we get caught up in. We go to work every day. We put all our efforts into that job and doing what we're supposed to do to keep our livelihood intact of where we're at. But in this welfare check, we need to start checking on ourselves. Are we checking? Are we recognizing things that are going wrong or going bad about our body? Are we recognizing things that may be small that can become big because we're not taking care of it on the front end? See, this welfare check is about us. Checking yourself, making sure you're okay. First, we're starting with the body, as I mentioned. Go get your physicals. We're halfway through the year. If you ain't got a schedule, I mean, if you haven't had it yet, you should have a schedule before the end of the year. If you're over 50, get that colonoscopy. Get that prostate exam. Women, get them pap smears, get them mammograms, do everything in your power to check on yourself. And one main overlooked thing that a lot of people, we pay into health insurance, medical and dental and everything. But one thing that a lot of people don't pay attention to is their dental health. And I'm not saying that the people ain't brushing their teeth and all that. I'm talking about the cleaning of your teeth, because there's a lot of things that can happen through your mouth. There's a lot of things that can happen through your mouth orally that can affect your internal organs. I only know this because I was reading something the other day and it really jumped out at me that our oral health, our oral health can make or break a lot of things. So if you haven't been to the dentist in a while, don't be scared. Them people, let me say this about a dentist. A lot of people don't go to the dentist because a lot of people are embarrassed about how their mouth looks, or because what they think the dentist may see, or that the dentist may judge them, or anything like that. That's what they get paid to do. Fix your mouth. Don't be afraid to go to the dentist. It's better to recognize what's wrong than to keep walking around worrying if the tooth is going to fall out. Talking to people, worrying if they smell that cavity in the back because it's coming through. I don't want to go down that road. Your dental and oral care can affect a lot of things in your body. Make it a point to get that checked, as well as all the other things with your body. When we talk about the mind, your welfare check on your mind. I talk about a lot of things on here, as I mentioned. There's a lot of things going on in this world, but you got to download some of these things. You got to take that mental break. You got to, we hear mental health, and mental health is being thrown out there now as a cliche. Let's just be honest. Mental health is being thrown out there as a cliche with anything that these people, shooters, go out here and do at this point. They're putting mental health in front of gun safety. That'll tell you everything you need to know. Mental health was a stigma at one time. Now it's an excuse for some folk. When we talk about the welfare check of your mind, download a lot of that stuff. Let a lot of that stuff go. Be aware, but don't be consumed. Take the time to think about these things, read these things, look at these things, and let it go. And when I talked about the entertainment aspect of, watching the Real Housewives or whatever you may watch for your entertainment, I'm not saying that in a bad way. You need that break. You need something to laugh about. We all need some laughter in our life. But take that time to just download. Sit in silence sometime. Put some music on. I was telling I was coming home yesterday and I had the Groove on Sirius XM playing, and let me tell you something. I was the drummer, the guitarist, the singer, the background singer. I was the producer. Sometimes you just need that download to center yourself all over again. Music, man. Music soothes the mind, and the body will follow. And let's talk about the soul. I'm not one of those people that tell everybody you need to go to church. I'm not that guy. But I am going to tell you that you need to be right with God. And when I say be right with God, I mean you got to have your own relationship. Your relationship is your relationship. But in this welfare check, as far as your soul and your spirituality, getting down on them knees every night, thanking God for what you got, and asking for forgiveness for what you've done, and taking the time to thank him for what he has done, is doing, and will continue to do, we need to check ourselves. We need to make sure that we're thanking God for everything he's blessing us with on a daily basis. Whether you do it when you open your eyes, or whether you do it before you lay down to go to sleep, or whether you do both. Whether you're praying before you eat your meals, give thanks. Give thanks. That centering of your spirituality, of your soul, will do wonders. It will do wonders. Control what you can control. Control what you can control. And you can control finding time in your busy day to thank the man upstairs for everything he has blessed you with up to this point and will continue blessing you with. I don't bring these things to you as far as this welfare check to just be cliche and just throw them out there. I'm bringing it to you in this mindset. As I mentioned on this show, I talk about a lot of things that are going wrong in the world. A lot of things that are going wrong from the views of what we see. But we don't have to let what's going wrong in the world affect us individually in our mind, body, and our soul. We need to stay grounded and know that these things too shall pass. But in order for us to get through these things, for us to be able to talk about them and understand these are things that are happening around us and it doesn't have to affect me, my health, or anything like that, take the time and do a welfare check. We're halfway through the year, y'all. We're halfway through the year. We're going into the second week of July. And there's a lot of things that we want to accomplish that we haven't. But the one thing, the main thing I would do is check yourself. Get yourself checked. Do those physicals. Do those labs or whatever you got to do. If you got that, if you got insurance, a lot of people don't. Let's just be real. You may have to find a way to do it if you don't. But if you have insurance for a just in case, that's what insurance is. It's just in case. It's time to just in case for yourself. Don't wait for the doctor to call you. Call the doctor. Tell him it's time for a physical. Tell him you want the full scope. Don't just tell them that, let them dictate to you what they're going to do for you. You tell them, I want the full thing. Take the blood, take the urine, take the feces, take everything, test everything about me so I know I'm all right. So I know I'm all right. I say this because we've had a lot of people leave here too soon. We have a lot of people that leave here too soon. Some could be prevented, some can't. But do a welfare check. Check on yourself. Get yourself right. It's that time. We're halfway through the year. 2023 is around the corner. We'll be in the holidays here shortly. Let's wrap this thing up. I appreciate everybody tuning in today. It was a long week last week. I had time to sit back and relax and just think about some things and marinate and just download. That's why I wanted to come to you today and tell y'all, do a welfare check. Somebody out there right now that hears my voice knows that they got some things going on with their body that they need to get checked. It's just one phone call. It's one phone call. Get checked. And if you know somebody that's going through something, that's dealing with something medically or whatever that you know needs to get checked, send them to go get checked. Send them to go get checked. You ain't got to be rude about it, but send them to go check. And check in on your parents, grandparents. Check in on them. Make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Make sure they're taking their medication if they're on medication. Make sure they're doing everything they're supposed to do under doctor's orders. Stay on them. We want them around here, just like we want you around here. And as I always say before I sign off, love yourself, love one another, keep your head up, and most definitely keep your faith in God. I appreciate everybody tuning in. I'll be back again next week with some more information and some more thought-provoking conversation. I appreciate y'all, and I'm out. I'll holler. Peace.